I'd rather talk now than after the movie because the movie is actually very powerful and my comments aren't. So, first of all, thank you all for staying and joining us this morning. Thank you for the speaker from Zaman for setting this up as the worst part of the program is the last speaker. You know, that was very kind of him. And I was sort of intrigued with David's comments about what would I say to Erdogan. So it might be something like, hey, Tayyip, how's it going? High five. And remember, hello, Fatih? How is Fatih doing these days? And say, you know, I need a couple extra shoe boxes. You have any? And your son Bilal, if he needs some help counting some money, I got a grandson in kindergarten that can help him out. And those cats, are they all ready for the next election? Because I got a cat I want to donate. And this is his picture. He's chewing on this cable in Austin, Texas. I think it'll do just great in Ankara for the election. And you know those 16 palace guards in period dress? They're really cool, especially that guy in the bathrobe. And what are they up to for Halloween? Can we borrow them? And Tayyip, guess what? The Pope's in town. How about lunch in your $6.7 million kitchen? And let's see, today's Saturday. Which conspiracy are we doing today? Is it Mossad? Is it CIA? Is it the Moonies? Or are we doing parallel state? Which one is it today? And by the way, I'm doing this crossword. How do you spell nepotism? So anyway, I don't think I'd be quite as kind as David with the president. But you know, it is great, I think, to listen to all the comments that we've had today and to reflect on them and to think about them and think about, in a sense, what we can do and how they apply to our lives. You know, we saw the movement was persecuted before AKP. Remember? Gulen was on trial for 8 years. For the second time. He'd been on trial once before, both times for being a terrorist. And every time he's indicted, they also indict the movement as part of the documents. So it struck me as we were listening to this today that there's a parallel between the persecution of the movement and the progress of democracy. And that, in a sense, things go around in a circle, as we say, in some regard, and that the movement has always taken energy from persecution, as have many movements, both religious and non-religious. And it's also important, not only about what's going on in Turkey, but as a couple of the speakers have mentioned, democracy as a whole is on the decline in the world. It isn't just in Turkey that democracy is suffering. We've talked about national security here, around the world, but also governments that just fall and go away and democracy is lost. So in a sense, the fight in Turkey is a fight for us all. And there is a parallel. And I think it's important to us to remember that fighting for democracy in Turkey is very important in terms of fighting for democracy in the whole world. That we have to keep this struggle, this human struggle that we have been on since the beginning of human time, toward a democracy, because in democracy we support each other and we take from each other and we build our individuality and we give it back to the community. We need to have that democracy. We don't thrive as human beings when we don't have democracy. And what we learn, I think, from the Gulen movement is that this can be based upon our religious belief. It need not be, but it can be. There's nothing contradictory between having faith, a deep faith, personal faith. But what is important is how we translate that to each other. How we respect each other's dignity and each other's desire for human fulfillment. So I think that what we take away, what at least I take away from this today, is not necessarily a depression pessimism, nor optimism, but really a commitment that in our own lives we have to continue working for justice, for peace, and that it's a long, hard struggle. And it's a long, hard struggle that's not part of a specific partisan political process. That we have to be political leaders in a larger context, not partisan, right? We have to be community leaders. We have to understand that everything we do as individuals influences other people. You take the example of Fethullah Gulen, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Cesar Chavez. None of these people descended from heaven and were suddenly among us. People around them, their parents, their friends, acquaintances, helped them become who they are. They helped raise them up as leaders to us. And so everything that we do has that same potential. Everybody we talk to, everybody that we cajole, encourage, has that same potential. Everything we do in our lives, every moment that we have, has an impact. Every moment has an impact. We can waste it, or we can do something with it. And I think that's our challenge. Mary Ann Evans, she's sometimes known, who actually was George Eliot back in the days when women could not write under their own name, has a really good quote that I always like. We make a living from what we earn. We make a life from what we give. What we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others and for the world is immortal and lives forever. And that's what this struggle, to me, is about in a larger context. You know, and I'd like to maybe conclude with a couple ideas, very short. But one of them is, what can we do? And I think we can talk, we can write to legislators, we can write op-ed pieces in the local newspapers, and we can send nice messages to today's Zaman online, support people, send thank yous to columnists. You know, that kind of moral support coming from us to them that are in the day-to-day struggle, I think is very important, and is something that we can do easy enough these days, and we ought to do it. Imagine what it's like if you're sitting there. One of the people that I went to see when I was in, last time I was there, and I couldn't see because he just got fired. He was teaching at the university. He's also a columnist. But I think just writing and saying, what do you think he would feel like if he got 10, 20, 30, thanks for what you're doing, keep it up. You know, that kind of thing. When Robert Kennedy was running for president before he was assassinated, he went to South Africa and gave a speech. And he spoke to the students that were in the white university, apartheid. He gave this really famous speech. I'm going to end with it because this is part of our struggle as moral companions. And it's funny because, I don't know if this is funny, but the last time, the one time I spoke at the Rumi Forum in Washington, I actually ran into a student who was there when Robert Kennedy gave this speech. But you've heard part of it, but let me put it in context for today because I think it's very helpful. So each time a person stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, that person sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. The second part of the quote I always carry on my bar card. Few are willing to brave the disapproval of their fellows, the censure of their colleagues, the wrath of their society. Moral courage is a rarer commodity than bravery in battle or great intelligence. Yet, moral courage is the one essential, vital quality for those who seek to change a world that yields most painfully to change. And I believe those with the moral courage to enter that moral conflict will find themselves with companions in every corner of the globe. We are the companions of those in Turkey. They are our companions. And I'm happy to have been here with you as companions today.